This notion that NBA fans and TV pundits and media members have been stating that LeBron James supposedly should have around 6 to 8 to 10 regular season MVPs is laughable to say the least. Um, and we can see here, this is another topic of discussion every single year. They're always going to bring into fruition. LeBron James should winning another MVP award, and he should have many more in the past. That's what they'll quote and say. Now, I've stated my position as of right here, right now. LeBron James at 4 regular season MVPs is exactly right. A lot of cats are always complaining about the media, about how they're always wrong on MVP votes and awards. Listen, we're in the day and age of technology, accountability. Social media will pretty much bully you into getting the right answer. And when it comes to these NBA media members who are voting for the most valuable player year of the award, they've been on point for the last decade and a half. If you go a little further, some have been back and forth, but they've been on point for the last decade and a half. Now, for LeBron James, he deserves, and him staying at 4 regular season MVPs is exactly where he needs to be. I don't want to hear this notion about LeBron James deserved some MVPs after he left the Miami Heat. LeBron James has not deserved an MVP ever since 2013, and that's when LeBron James won his 4th regular season MVP in the 2013 season. And ever since, it's been around 8 seasons or so. Now, LeBron James had a great case this season to win the MVP award, but he got hurt, and Joel Embiid's hurt as well, so it's kind of up in there. Who knows if LeBron can come back within a week, within a couple weeks, and if he has enough in the tank to make a case. But pretty much the MVP season days of the regular season for LeBron James is pretty much out the window, unless miraculously he can come back within a week or two this season and pretty much put up some dominant performances. But besides from that, I don't want to hear this, but let's jump in here to Skip and Shannon. Shannon's a fanboy, so he's going to state that LeBron's going to quote, I haven't watched this, but you can pretty much see that Shannon's always going to state LeBron deserves 7, 8, or above to glorify him as the GOAT. And who knows? I don't know what Skip Bayless is going to say, but LeBron James at 4 regular season MVPs is exactly where it needs to be. Most people just give their quote-unquote hot takes. They don't dissect year in, year out. And I'll do that within the middle of this segment here today. So let's jump in, see what they got to say.
What you both think about this. Shannon, first, do you agree that LeBron should have won at least 8 MVPs?
Skip, I believe he.
I thought they would probably say around 6 or so, but they bumped that bad boy up to 8. And the topic here is for Kyle Kuzma said it's more of a political thing, and LeBron should have 8, 9 to 10 regular season MVP awards. That is not the case. LeBron James won his first regular season MVP in the 2008-2009 season with the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's when he brought his team to a 66-16 record, number 1 in the NBA. And they did get bounced to the conference finals to 6 games to Dwight Howard and Stan Van Gundy's Orlando Magic. The next following season, LeBron James won the regular season MVP award. The Cleveland Cavaliers once again, finishing with a 60-22 record, number 1 in the Eastern Conference. Then that's when they got bounced off to the Boston Celtics in the second round. When LeBron James had some internal issues with Delonte West pretty much pumping the gas on his mother. And you had a bunch of other stuff go around, his teammates going back and forth, which is a shame. It's a shame. And that's when LeBron James decided to leave to go to Miami. Now, LeBron James, not in 2011, but in 2012, 2013, won the regular season MVP award. We saw probably much one of the peak and the highs of LeBron James's career, both on the physical and mental side. And ever since, LeBron James has not won a regular season MVP award. It's been around the 8th season as of right now. Now, LeBron is still the greatest player in the world. That does not equate to being the regular season MVP. Let's see how Shannon kind of expounds on this, if he can go in depth, or maybe he's just going to be kind of talking that talk.
Should have more than 4, but 8, 8 might be a little high. 8 might
How
be
about 9 or 10?
Yeah. Well, that's even higher than 8. So I'm gonna say no. But Skip, I believe there are a couple of years that he probably should have won. I think the decision hurt his chances that first year in Miami. The year that Steve Nash won. Steve Nash at 18 was 18-10 with 54 wins. Bron was 31-7-7 and had no help, and he had 50 wins. So you can make the case. Kobe also had a very compelling argument, but I think there were 5 guys that year that got at least 11 first-place votes. But he has he has 4 times he's finished second, 3 times he's finished third. So that just lets you know the level of consistency in which he's played with over the course of his career. So he's won 4, he's been fourth, he's been second 4 times, that's 8. He's been third 3 times, that's 11. So 11 of his 17 years, he's in year 18, and we believe he'll be a top. If he doesn't win, he'll be a top 3 again. That just goes to show you, Skip, 12 of his 18 years, he's been top 3 in the MVP. That shows a level of consistency I don't know if we've ever seen in this game before. But every year there's a different storyline. We get the situation with Giannis, and you know, not to take anything away from Giannis, but I do believe, Skip, he should have more than 4. He's playing unbelievable basketball, and there hasn't been a season in which he hasn't played unbelievable basketball. And you can make a case. Now, you can make a case for guys that have won it. I mean, I ain't got no problem with Russ getting a triple-double and winning it. Hell, you got to give it to him. I don't care if he finished in dead last. A man averages a triple-double for the entire season, has 42 games in which he has a triple-double. Give that man the MVP. James Harden, what he did, give that man the MVP. But there have been a couple of years that LeBron should have won the MVP. And I think sometimes, Skip, we can get, like Jordan, we just got tired. They get tired. They don't do that in baseball. You win it. Look at Barry. Barry got 7, won like 4 in a row. Probably should have like 9 because Jeff Kent won 1 year.
As I used to call him Jeff Can't.
Yeah. So he might have should have had 10 instead of 7. Hockey, Gretzky won it 9 times in a row.
Yep.
So for me, I agree with Kuzma. I think he should. I don't agree with. I think the point of Kuzma's argument is he should have more than 4.
Listen, Kyle Kuzma is young. He's a two-dimensional thinker, and LeBron James is within his team. So he has to state that. You have to hype up LeBron James as much as possible to make him the GOAT, which he's not. Let me break this down because Shannon Sharp is pretty much just kind of talking the talk. He doesn't get into specifics. And listen, whenever you're speaking truth in the matter of fact that LeBron James has 4 MVPs is exactly where he needs to be, there's always going to be that outlash. Because people glorify LeBron James. They don't like to hear the truth. They want to glorify him as much as possible. So let's just break this down. Listen, LeBron James came into the NBA within the 2004 NBA season. In the 2004 and 2005 NBA season, the Cleveland Cavaliers did not make the playoffs. So by that standard, of course, he's not going to win the regular season MVP. Now, the next following season, in the 2007 season, the 2006 NBA season, that's when LeBron James was able to take the Cleveland Cavaliers to a 4th seed in the Eastern Conference and getting bounced in the second round. Now, within that, Steve Nash won the regular season MVP. Now, the arguments about the top 3 of winning that MVP was Steve Nash, Kobe Bryant, and Shaquille O'Neal. LeBron James was pretty much in that top 5, but he was not in the making to win that MVP. So we already got 3 seasons down the drain. Now we're going to jump into the 2007 NBA season. Now, who won that award? Dirk Nowitzki of the Dallas Mavericks, who took that team to the league's best record in the Western Conference, best record of a 67-15 record. You have to give it to Dirk Nowitzki that year. He was dynamic. He was electric. And when it comes to the MVP winners, most likely if you're the top seed or the second seed in your conference, and you're having a lights-out year mixed with the Player of the Year award, you're going to win the MVP. You will. And the Dallas Mavericks, they've never had a number 1 seed. I don't think really in history, maybe once or twice, but the Mavericks came out and dominated the league with a 67-15 record. Dirk Nowitzki was on another level. You're not giving it to LeBron James, especially in his 4th season. Now, LeBron made the finals that season, but we're talking about regular season. We're not talking about postseason. All right, the next season, 2007, 2008, Kobe Bryant won this award. There were some arguments for LeBron James, pretty much leading his Cleveland Cavaliers once again to a high record in the Eastern Conference, but that award had to be given to Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant had his team with the LA Lakers as the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. And Kobe Bryant had not won an MVP by then that season. So within Kobe Bryant's dominant NBA season coming around, 2008 deserved to be to Kobe Bryant. Now, we're going to 2009, 2010. LeBron James won those MVP regular season awards, as should be. Now we're going to 2011. Who won it? Derrick Rose. That's when LeBron James' first season with the Miami Heat with the Big Three Heatles. And within that season, Derrick Rose deserved to have that regular season MVP. LeBron James should have been at second on the list. But Derrick Rose, being his third or fourth season, took the Chicago Bulls to a #1 record. And before the season started, everyone had the Miami Heat being the #1 team in the NBA, being stacked as a super team. So for a young Chicago Bulls team with a young Derrick Rose to take them to a #1 seed in the Eastern Conference was special as can be. He was dynamic, and he did deserve that MVP award. And you did have LeBron James. He should have finished around second or third, as where he should have been. Derrick Rose deserved that MVP. Now, the next 2 seasons, we do have LeBron James winning back-to-back with the Miami Heat, as deserved as can be. And into 2014, that's when they gave it to Kevin Durant over LeBron James. Now, that one was a close one. LeBron James was at second. But Kevin Durant, you did have Russell Westbrook. He missed around 30 to 40 games or so. And Kevin Durant took his Oklahoma City Thunder team without Russell Westbrook to a second seed. And Kevin Durant, I believe, scored around 32 points a game that season. Pretty much the league scoring within the 2014 season. Much deserved to Kevin Durant. I'm going to stop here as of right now. We'll jump more into here, and I'll get into the second half of this.
8 might be a little of an exaggeration, but I do believe he should have more than 4. And Skip, with the way with the way we look at it, there's no doubt. There should be no doubt in anybody's mind. He's been the best player for longer than anybody else in the history of the game has been the best player.
Yeah, but Shannon Sharp, listen, even if you're the best player in the world, that does not equate to being the most valuable player. The MVP is pretty simple. A lot of cats just like to throw it out there saying it's complicated. It really is not. It's a mixture of 2 things. If you're the NBA season's Player of the Year award, mixed with the impact you've had leading your team to that high position and a high standing. So we can cover each MVP within these seasons. They pretty much have been the Player of the Year award mixed with the impact. That's pretty much how consistent the MVPs have been. It has been consistent. Now, I'll cover the last from 2015 to throughout here in a second.
That doesn't make him the best player ever.
Well, there's no doubt about that. We've already established that, Skip. You and I have established that.
I think you're the only one in the whole world.
No, I'm the only one, but we've already established that.
And by the way, speaking of Michael Jeffrey Jordan, he could have won it every year, just every year. It's just like, what are you doing? Well, what about him? What about him? And you're right. They just got tired of it. They accepted that's the level he plays at, and it's not fair, so we got to give it to this guy or that guy or this star or that star.
Especially once you break through, Skip, because, back in the 80s, I think he won it a couple of times, but, Bird and Magic had a stranglehold on it. Bird won it 3 straight years.
So my first question to you is, when did Kyle Kuzma become LeBron James' hype man, his carnival barker, his hurry, step right up and see
all about it.
See the 10-time MVP LeBron James, the king.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
Well, LeBron James is aware of Kyle Kuzma. He's a young cat. He's delusional. He's a fanboy, and he wants his fame. So, of course, Kyle Kuzma is going to bow down to LeBron James in his status and glorify him as the GOAT into this conversation. It is what it is upon that, but is anyone going to take Kyle Kuzma serious on this? No. 2-dimensional, delusional fanboys? Yeah, they will, but no.
For a while, he was the odd man out. Now it's like, are you in or out? Like, remember
Kevin Love?
Yeah. Are you? What was the thing about in or out?
Don't worry about fitting in.
Fitting in. You're fitting out.
Yeah.
Well, he's fitting way in now because he's trying to become it for LeBron. He's going to be his hype man after every game. And Kyle Kuzma is like the quote master too, and everything is wild exaggerations. I told you last year, LeBron should have won it over Giannis a year ago. I thought once we hit the pandemic, it should have been over, and LeBron should have had the MVP. I do not think.
All right, I'll interrupt you. Last season's MVP award with Giannis Antetokounmpo, quote unquote, going against LeBron James. Giannis deserved that MVP undoubtedly, without question. If we had to do this out of 100%, Giannis should have been around 65%, and then LeBron would have been at 35% to win this. Now, Giannis was always in the lead. LeBron James, before the pandemic and before the COVID happened, LeBron James was making headway. He was having momentum after beating the LA Clippers and the Milwaukee Bucks back-to-back games. LeBron James with dominant performances, taking down the 2 best teams in the NBA alongside with the Lakers. Then the pandemic happened. The NBA was out for around 4 to 5 months or so. And when LeBron James came back to the bubble, they had 8 regular season games. Still was not enough, but for LeBron James, he looked horrendous within those first 8 games in the playoffs, or not the playoffs, the first 8 games in the NBA bubble. LeBron James looked horrendous. And of course, they gave it to Giannis Antetokounmpo, who deserved it undoubtedly. Now, we cannot take playoffs into effect. I mean, you have a bunch of hot take, delusional, two-dimensional fanboys. Ever since Giannis lost in the second round to the Miami Heat, pretty much in a gentleman's sweep, they stated that Giannis should have not won the MVP, should have went to LeBron after winning the title. Listen, a lot of people are in the moment. You do not take the playoffs into factor in this situation. Giannis Antetokounmpo was the most dominant player. He was the Player of the Year award in the 2020 NBA season. LeBron James was at second, but it wasn't that close as a lot of people had it to be. It wasn't.
He deserves this year's MVP so far. And by the way, if I can just get this off my chest, LeBron was in full showboat mode last night against a Charlotte team that had just lost by 25 at Denver and forced to play back-to-back Denver and Los Angeles, and they look dead on their feet. They were dead-legged. They were not ready to play basketball last night, and LeBron, highest IQ in basketball, smelled blood, and so he went into all-time attack mode, and he got his 37. And
Easy too, didn't he?
Well, was it easy? It was so easy that he's pouring it on late. He is running it up and rubbing it in late.
Now, Skip, you see him make that run. Stop that. You make it seem like they didn't need them points.
Okay, could we see the shot that he took with 47 seconds left?
What did you just get?
Watch this.
What did he do?
47 seconds left. And this, you're up 9, and I'm going to shoot another one.
Yeah.
Oh.
What did he do every time? His highest scoring game came against who, Skip?
Yep. At Charlotte. Okay, I got it. That's his bet me 5 cases. They go 6-3.
What do a painting contractor, social media manager, and wellness entrepreneur have in common?
And I got to tell you, LeBron just stunk it up through that stretch.
But you didn't
played only 8 of those games.
But you didn't tell me Schroeder was going to be out also.
Okay, but
okay, what about
the best
March?
player on the planet.
What about March? What about March?
Okay,
You keep talking about that.
but this was the stretch with no AD, and look what they lost 4 straight home games. They lost to Brooklyn, Miami, Washington, and Phoenix. And remember, against Washington, he missed the free throw that would have won the game. Then he missed a 3 that would have tied at the end of overtime.
Look, the league's MVP as of right now should be Joel Embiid. You can put LeBron in number 2, 3 at Harden, and then the rest is just kind of all over the place when you have to pretty much tackle Jokic with Damian Lillard, so on and so forth. Listen, Joel Embiid and LeBron James are going to be out for an extended time period. That pretty much has the MVP race up in the air. I'm going to cover another video to go more in depth upon that. As of right now, you still got to give it to Joel Embiid since the amount of time he's been out has not equated to him being moved off number 1 for right now. To cover the rest of the list when it comes down to 2015 and above, since these fans, quote-unquote, say he deserves 8 to 10 MVPs. That's laughable. All right, we're going to jump into, 2014 went to Kevin Durant. Much deserved for him winning easily. Now, that was still a close one with him and LeBron, but you had to give it to KD, especially with Russell Westbrook missing 30 games and Kevin Durant taking on that impact of pretty much scoring over 30 a night and bringing his Thunder to a second seed. The 2015 season, that was the emergence of Stephen Curry and the Golden State Warriors out of nowhere. Most people before that season had the Warriors finishing with the 5th seed, a nice up-and-coming team. But the Warriors, even better, they turned out to be a 67-15 record, number 1 in the Western Conference. And this was the same season that LeBron James elected to go back to Cleveland, who had some internal problems, who had to fix, different trades, free agency. Now, the Cleveland Cavaliers did finish with I believe a second record with around a 52-30 record, something along that in the Eastern Conference. But you're not going to give the award to LeBron James that season, especially with Steph Curry bringing the Star Player of the Year, dominating the league. And they gave it to Steph Curry. If anything, it should have been either Steph Curry or James Harden. Because that season, James Harden had Dwight Howard injured for around 30 to 40 games. And the Rockets were expected actually to be around an 8th to a 9th seed beginning of that season. But the Rockets actually turned out to be a 2nd seed due to James Harden's beautiful, excellent regular season performance and dominating. So 2015 was either going to go to Steph Curry or Harden. LeBron James was not in the top 2. So cross off that list. 2016, very easily, unanimously went to Steph Curry, 73-9 record. That was the greatest regular season performance by any player in NBA history other than Michael Jordan. Steph Curry took the Best Player of the Year award title from LeBron James that season. Now, LeBron James took it back in the NBA Finals, but I won't get into that. But Steph Curry was the greatest player in the year in the 2016 NBA season. And Steph Curry was making Kevin Durant become irrelevant because Kevin Durant was top 3. Kevin Durant was always a top 2 player against LeBron James, but Steph Curry was the Best Player in the Year award. You had the second greatest player was LeBron James, and then Kevin Durant was kind of becoming somewhat irrelevant in that conversation. Curry took him out in the playoffs, and then in the regular season, it was looking bad for LeBron James as well. It would have been around his 3rd or 4th year without winning a championship. Curry and the Warriors were taking over as a dynasty. Curry was destroying the Cavaliers, but then, of course, in the finals and all that, we saw LeBron take it back. So the 2016 NBA season, the MVP easily went to Steph Curry. There was not even a close second. Not even one. The 2017 NBA season, listen, LeBron James was not even top 2. Russell Westbrook won over James Harden. Now, James Harden, beginning to the middle of that season, was pretty much the front winner to win that award. But towards the end, Russell Westbrook went ham with the triple doubles. His team was a 6th seed, but again, it's a Player of the Year award mixed with impact and MVP. Russell Westbrook pretty much took the nod over James Harden. If I had to give it out of 100%, Russ was around 55, and then 45 went to James Harden. Russell Westbrook went ham around the last week or two to where you had to give it to him, especially after hitting that game-winning 3 bank over the Denver Nuggets and having that storyline as well. So LeBron James so far has not been in the top 2 within these years. Go a little quicker here. The 2018 NBA season, James Harden finally won his first regular season MVP award. There was not a close second to James Harden in the 2018 NBA season. There was not. LeBron James was around top 3, but those Cleveland Cavaliers were a mess. LeBron James traded his team away in the trade deadline. Remember when you had Kevin Love, you had Isaiah Thomas, you had Jay Crowder, you had D Wade. That team was low-key stacked. You had Derrick Rose with those Cleveland Cavaliers, Jeff Green, yada yada. Most of those players got traded away for a bunch of young cats, like Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance Jr., yada yada. That was pretty much the most chaos we've seen in toxicity in that environment with LeBron James leading a team. Every single day was chaos for the Cleveland Cavaliers and the tactics of LeBron James. He was not even close to winning the MVP award. He was not. James Harden was dominating the league with the Houston Rockets getting the number 1 seed in the Western Conference with a 65-17 record. Easily went to James Harden. Now we go into 2019. Who was it? It was Giannis Antetokounmpo against James Harden. LeBron James was not in that top 2 picture whatsoever with those LA Lakers, especially with LeBron James missing the NBA playoffs. Giannis Antetokounmpo won over James Harden, which was it was a close one. I would say around 60% to Giannis, 40% for James Harden, but Giannis pretty much deserved that award. And then last season, that was pretty much the closest for LeBron James to win it, but again, it was pretty much Giannis Antetokounmpo. You can somewhat say him against LeBron in the 2020 NBA season, but Giannis was dominant and won the Defensive Player of the Year award. That was Giannis's. Now we're in a position to where it's up in the air in the 2021 NBA season. So right now, Embiid is number 1 on my list. Number 2 is LeBron. At 3, James Harden, and the rest is kind of up in the air. But with Embiid and LeBron hurt, who knows who can take it?
And against Miami, he went 1 for 8 from 3. That's probably their toughest test.
So what would you have said? Have an 18-point lead, and LeBron James, they lose that game.
Well, they're not going to.
Skip, they would skip.
Ready to.
Minute off there.